Ladies and gentlemen, I sleep too much, and so I spent the last 4 days in a sleep clinic, and I thought since I'm staying in a sleep clinic, I would do what every normal person that goes to a sleep clinic does, which is to grow a mustache. And so I've been doing this for 2 weeks in preparation, and I've got to say, it doesn't suit me too well. But one of the key areas that is important for you is the area of presentations. Realistically, even if you work in Austria, in Russia, wherever, the area where you will probably be most likely to need a very broad, extensive vocabulary and to be able to communicate very efficiently is in the area of presentations. You're going to have an international client at some point that you'll have to present something to, or you'll have the fat bosses from the headquarters in Toronto that are in Vienna for a visit, and they'll want to hear things in English. And that's why we focused on presentations so strongly. Now, there's one area that we haven't really covered yet, and this is one area that is nonetheless a core element of any good presentation. Because if you give a presentation in a professional context, no matter what you're talking about, you are probably going to have to give a quantitative development at some point. You're going to have to explain how something developed in the past, how it's developing right now, or what your forecast for a future development is. There are two tools that really help you in presentations whenever giving either quantitative developments or breakdowns. And these are line graphs on the one hand, and pie charts, if you want to explain what breakdowns are quantitatively. Now, without a doubt, the best way of visualizing these things is by means of your fancy Excel spreadsheet that you then convert into a JPEG or other form of graphic. And the thing is, in modern days, if any of you are able to use an Excel spreadsheet, enter data, and then communicate or transfer it in a form that becomes a line graph or a pie chart, then you are already very, very average. Anyone can do that nowadays. But if you give a presentation visualizing one of these things, you have to be able to do more than that. If it's an English presentation, namely, you have to be able to comment the developments that you're visualizing in English. And here's the silver lining, here's the benefit for you. If you know how to structure a graph commentary, what vocabulary to use, etc., then success there, is not a choice anymore, it becomes inevitable. This is actually something that is very, very easy to do, and I'm gonna show you how. Now, there's a very simple structure to any form of line graph, but before we get to it, I have a question for the smarter students here among you. You're all very smart, but this is for the brightest of all. We all know that a line on a line graph is going to move horizontally along the x-axis. But, let's say we start here. If I'm at this point, and let's say we do this by dates. Which one of you can tell me in which 3 different directions this line could move now? It's a very tough question. People have flunked kindergarten because of this question. What are the 3 options we have? It can go, well, that's way too sophisticated. That's a master's program. There, that's my kind of language. We can go up, we can go down, or we can go straight or stay the same, even better. And use this as an anchor, because whatever type of line graph description you've ever given your life, it's always only these 3 options. And the trick is, if you know the vocabulary or the phrases for each one of these developments, well then there's nothing else that could ever throw you off. So we are going to look at different ways of saying going up, going down, and okay, don't misinterpret this, staying straight. There we go. These are our basic anchors for any description of a line graph. Now, before we turn to them, we'll look at the overall structure. When you comment a graph, you've got an introductory sentence, one sentence, two sentences maximum. There's one phrase or one sentence that I thought of as a template that you can use in any situation, regardless of what the data is. And the same goes for the end. There's one sentence you can use as a conclusion, and no matter what line graph, no matter what development you want to comment, these two sentences always work excellently. All you have to do is plug in the name of the company, the stock, the month, whatever, and we'll see that in a moment. In between is where the actual meat of the line graph commentary is, and if I can indulge in my Picasso delusions for a second. Let's say this is the development of my bank account over the last 5 years. Now, you're commenting on this because it's an extremely interesting topic, and you have to summarize this a little bit. Are you going to tell your audience about every single going up, going down, or going straight development? No, that would A, bore the hell out of them, and B, it wouldn't be helpful. If you're commenting on a graph, your rule of thumb is, on average, you should choose 3 major developments in your typical graph. If it's a graph that only has a one-line development, if things only go up, or as in the case of my bank account, things only go down, then you wouldn't choose 3, obviously. But in most normal line graphs, where you have fluctuations regularly, the first thing that you do is you look at that graph and you choose the 3 most important developments, the 3 most extreme developments that are of importance for your audience. So that's your first step. Look at the graph and find out what the most important development is. Let's do this here. What 3 developments do you think should be communicated to an audience?
Rise from the beginning up to the top.
You mean from here to where? To here or to here?
The second one.
Okay, I like that, yes. I agree.
And it drops down to the lowest point.
This is probably the most important overall development because that is a pretty, well, that's Christmas time on my bank account. Pretty steep drop there, so I agree. And then, this rise or straight? We would say, okay, somewhere at the end, things more or less stabilized, balanced out. So this would be the third thing. So this is the first thing you do. You look at it and you look for 3 important trends on that graph. Now, in business, of course, if there's a graph where there's more, where you say, okay, there's a 4th trend that's enormously important, of course, you take the 4th one too. Or if it's an extremely boring graph, then you can take 2 or less. Obviously, 3 is not etched in stone. It's just a rule of thumb. It's a good starting basis. Unless you have a good reason for choosing more or less developments, you take 3 developments per graph.